Ivor, Sigurd, Bassam. I think we've talked about them enough.
Yeah.
Hytham. I'm surprised you put him on this list.
I put him on the list because I liked Hytham, but
I did like Hytham, but he was hashtag useless.
Yeah, he was minimal. Randvi, Sigurd's wife, this is the last person on the list, because if we kept going with the list, there would be a lot of characters to count for.
There's a lot of characters.
But we could quickly name our favorites after Randvi. But Randvi, just real quick, I enjoyed the little side quest with her. It was fun. It's one of my more memorable moments of the game, because she spends so long just being that person where you show up and you're like, I want to see the Alliance map. Thank you. Then you run away, then you leave.
Yeah, you skip all her dialogue. You're just like, I want to see the Alliance map. I want to see the Alliance map. She says, you did good. You should go here. Okay, I don't care. Well, I want to see the Alliance map. Tells me where to go.
Essentially, and then you leave, and she's just kind of bored. So she doesn't really get to go anywhere. So you go on a side quest with her to go, essentially just
It's a date.
Yeah, it's a date. You just run around and have fun. But mind you, this is Sigurd's wife. So you do have an opportunity. You have a moment where she kisses you, and you're just like, oh shit. Wait, no.
This got real
Wait,
fast.
hold up. Hold up.
Hold up. That definitely happens. Yeah, you're right. I do like that little side story. She was definitely minor.
It was cute. I enjoyed it. It gave more to her character when they didn't have to. I think that's why I enjoyed it so much.
Well, if we're going to talk about characters we like, the Rag & Sons brothers, they were great.
Who?
The Rag & Sons, right?
I remember the Rag & Sons. I don't. Are you talking about Brodier and Brothier? Those two, the twins?
No. The one, Ivar.
Oh, right, them. Yeah, I never referred to them as that, despite them being that. Because I was going
Ivar the Boneless.
Because I was gonna say that if you were gonna talk about Brodier or Brothier, I completely forgot about them. One of them gets killed in one of the main missions, and my reaction to that was, no, who are you? Because again,
he was, but he was useless.
Again, that's the problem with this game and how sectioned off these stories are. I am not connected to that character because I don't see him anymore after that. So I don't care.
Well, I feel like they tried to capture that. You know how like you watch a show,
yeah,
you grow with the character, and then that character leaves for a little bit, and they come back and like, oh, you really want to see them, like as a reboot, and the character comes back. I think this is what they tried to do, and it just wasn't successful.
Yeah, it was that their arc was too early in the game, and if that arc was more impactful, I would have felt one way about it, sure. But to me, no, it just that didn't pan out well. But
yeah.
Ivar and Uba, though, oh boy, that arc, the Kjellbert thing,
Kjellbert, oh my god,
he freaking killed him. I'm like, you cunt.
But he taught him first, like he made this whole relationship, like a father-son relationship. Oh my goodness, it was unbelievable.
Ivar was so unhinged, and Uba was like the complete opposite, where Uba was like, you could tell he loved to fight and whatnot, warriors for Valhalla, but at the same time, he was diplomatic. He could be, calm. He could be chill. And
Ivar killed everyone.
Yeah, Ivar literally the second time you meet. Well, not the second. There's a point. The last arc, the last connection to that arc, that last segment, when you go back to meet them and whatnot, the whole thing happens strictly because Ivar wants to kill someone. And he killed the dude's brother. I can't remember the guy's name. He killed the dude's brother and then essentially started the war, or at least really solidified the war. And then just when you thought you had peace, then Kjellbert, who is just this really nice kid, and who's gonna essentially take over his father, be an heir once his father was going to. He's passed. he's killed, and I'm thinking to myself now. And I'm thinking to myself when he's killed, like what? No, okay. Let me put it this way: him dying wasn't really the shocking part. It was like how he died. I was like, okay, he was stabbed. This is clearly the knife of the enemy that we just tried to make peace with. And then the dude, the king that Ivar wants to kill, is like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, no, you killed him. Only to find out later, after Ivar tortures that king and kills him, that Ivar, as you're walking away, is like, oh, Kjellbert, he could have been so much, but he was worth it. Essentially, he was saying it was worth it, and I'm like, you killed him.
And it was unbelievable. Like my whole reaction was like, Are you kidding me? Why?
It was mine too. I was
like, I didn't see it coming. I didn't even see him coming to be dead.
And see, the thing is, I was sitting there like, huh, you know what? There's a portion where Ivar's the kind of character who's so well written that you have this moment where you're like, he's gonna end up killing one of our allies. We know it. But then
I thought he killed him in the beginning when it first happens. No, when it first happens to Kilbert, I was like, oh, this is Ivar for sure. And then there's like this whole story. You're like, it's not Ivar, no way. And then it's all again, it's him again. You're like, okay, all right, this guy.
There's so many fake outs with Ivar. I think it was Ivar. I don't know. There's so many fake outs with him that you don't know how to like, get his relationship or how he actually is. At first before he killed Chaelbert and all that, I kind of chalked him up to he's kind of like the Piccolo and Chaelbert's like the Gohan. He's a hard ass, early Piccolo when he was not afraid to kill someone just because he wants to and whatnot. That's how I viewed their relationship. But after he essentially admitted, yeah, I killed Chaelbert because I really wanted to kill the king, and this was the only way to do so. And yeah, this whole thing was orchestrated by me, essentially. Then I was like, "You're not Piccolo. You're the fucking Joker. I'm gonna kill you."
and so I think it's easy to say that Ivar and Colbert were my favorite characters, 100%. Like that whole story arc, that's probably the most memorable thing in this game to me, besides the ending. And unfortunately, but that's the case for me.
I know. I highly agree. I kind of wish that was the main because that was like the peak for me. Even Folke, the only thing I cared about with Folke's story was just Sigurd. Otherwise, I would not have cared as much about it. She was interesting.
Folke was interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about her. I liked her as well.
Yeah, she was interesting. I enjoyed her mindset on like these people are praising this guy and this and the other, but really we should be praising what Sigurd is and this and the other. I get that, but at the same time, I don't know. I never felt that connected in an Assassin's Creed game to the kind of narrative that spun out with Ivar and all of them. Quick question though, I have to ask: did you let the Ivar into Valhalla? Or did you honor him in death, essentially? Oh,
yeah, I let him in Valhalla and gave him his axe, yeah.
I did the opposite.
Oh, yeah, you suck. I did it because, you know what? He's a great character, and he deserves a warrior's death. I am for him. I am with him. But he was bogus for doing what he did to Colbert, but he was still a great character.
Here's the funny thing. I didn't make that decision immediately when I didn't let him in. I'm like, ooh, this is actually tricky. Because I was thinking to myself, like, on the one hand, you are a fantastic character. That alone makes me want to do that. But at the same time, you killed Chaelbert. Not only did you kill Chaelbert, you essentially caused so much havoc just so you could get off, in a way, if I had to put it that way. Like, it wasn't just all that. No, a warrior, like you want to, like Uba. I would let Uba in. He's a Viking, but he's a and whatnot. Actually, I let Dag. I honored Dag because Dag essentially wanted what was the best for his clan. He wasn't being selfish.
Let's not talk about Dag.
I know, but I know. But
I don't want to go down. We don't have time for that conversation.
No, we don't have to. We don't have to talk about Dag. But I'm just saying, by comparison, I let Dag in because I respected the fact that he was looking out for the clan, and he just didn't want Eivor to get a big head and this and the other, essentially mislead the clan. He was essentially the traditional Viking in that sense. While Ivar, I'm like, you're a Viking, but you're also a psychopath to the point where other Vikings are like, the fuck, man. So I'm like, nah. And then later on, you probably didn't have to do this because you didn't, because you honored him and let him go and honored him into Valhalla. I didn't. So I ended up having to fight Uba later. Didn't kill him, but Uba later on was like, I don't know how he found out, actually. I feel like the game was just pulling something out of its ass to tell me, but somehow he found out that I didn't let him in there despite no one else, being around when I did it. But whatever, I ended up having to fight Uba later, and because after you kill Ivar, he's like, well, it's a shame, because you tell him what he did. You're upfront about it, but you didn't tell him that, that you did or didn't let him into Valhalla. It was, and I like how in that scene they kind of like that sit when he essentially said, well, at least I'll be able to see my brother in Valhalla. There was no other line of dialogue from Eivor. I could have sworn she even just looked at the camera like, And then the guy just left it at that. I'm like, that's good. She didn't have to say another word. I'm saying she because I played the female Eivor. Dion played male, I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's, if you're wondering why I keep going back and forth between pronouns, it's because I played a female Eivor. But I ended up having to fight Uba. Uba, surprisingly, because he's very mature, much more mature than Eivor was. When I beat him, because you don't fight him with your action or anything, you're not trying to kill him. You beat him in a fist fight, and he essentially accepted what I had to do, but he also, and he said, next time I see you, hopefully it may be as friends. And I'm like, okay, that buries the hatchet. I'm kind of a little disappointed that it was that easy, but at the same time, I respected him more for it because he understood, but that was still his brother I killed and didn't honor him properly. So I get it.
All I want to say is Eivor was a good fight. It was a fun fight too.
Yeah, he was, dude, I loved his fight. He was tough.
He was tough. I don't want to go into it, but he was a good fight. I think we should start talking about setting a little bit here.
Or we could talk about Dag.
No. You've already mentioned Dag. You talked about more than we should have. Setting. So the setting of the game is in England and Norway.
Mostly England, though.
Mostly England with a little bit of Norway. And you could have went to Norway more if you want. There's like another after story level that's a higher power level. I felt the world was worse than all the other ones.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm just gonna say it. So, but it was beautiful. It's a beautiful world, and that's what Assassin's Creed they're known for. They're beautiful worlds, and it is that. But the little waterways you take, which are accurate to what you'd expect,
yes,
like the little waterways and how you get to the little different areas, not fun.
No,
it just isn't. I really liked Odyssey's. Odyssey had like these high points, the beautiful architecture. It just was a better setting.
Yeah.
England, you would hope the story would carry it, but for me, it's just the setting. The setting didn't do it for me on this game. I just didn't enjoy the setting as much. And they've done they have beautiful mountains.
Yeah.
They have like really cool areas where overlooking the water, like a classic lighthouse on the lake. Like they had those kind of things, but it's still for me. I think the world was not the best. And
you all might not be able to see that in my footage that I'm providing right now because I had to play the computer. I had to play the game on near potato. So it probably looks rough to you all. But even then, I could see what they were going for. And in some cases, when I'm looking, like when you're doing the synchronizations and whatnot, you see the stretch of land. I'm like, that is beautiful. It just doesn't look beautiful when you're running through it.
and the way they make the way they use technology you can see really far, like the view distance, it's amazing. They did it in Odyssey, and they just nailed it in that, and they nail it here with the view, just to see everything and how you can see it. You can get everywhere you can see. That it's just, I don't even know if any other open world does that as well as they do. That's the one thing you got to give to the big Assassin's Creed series.
Yes. So essentially, in my opinion, I agree with everything Dion said when it comes to the setting of this game and whatnot. But I have to ask, and we know that these are different settings, so obviously we're gonna have different opinions on each game. We're not exactly faulting the game's design, like why did they design it this way? No, it's just the setting. You jive with it or you don't. But my question is, between Egypt and England, which one?
That's a harder question. No, I did just say I like Egypt more, and I think I still like Egypt more because there was just the thing about Egypt that there's more history. I do think Egypt was also slightly boring, and I know people are gonna hate me. Everyone wanted ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt is cool. I just felt like I felt Egypt was boring. I think I said that in the Origins review that I thought Egypt was a little too barren.
Yeah,
but that's how it is. But there was really cool pyramids and stuff like that, and I like that stuff more than the cool things that was in England. I like the cool things, and I definitely like the cool things in Egypt more. It was still a little cooler because Egypt is a very interesting setting. Egypt in the past and everything that has to do with it, where old England's like, who cares? So that's how I feel about it, but I think the world design is as barren, and they're equally barren, and they try to do things, but you said we were just talking about the looks of it, or just driving with the air. Also, for Egypt, I jived with the era. I just didn't like how the map turned out. Norway and England, I don't jive with the era. I don't really care. I'm not a big Vikings guy, but but there's some things I didn't like about the way it works too. How the boating, how you can go the water is beautiful. Anyway, I just had to say it, but the way you boat and get to places, I can live. It was not fun, and it's not fun. And well, I guess I didn't like it in Odyssey either. But I like that I don't have to do any like fights. But I just didn't enjoy traveling the world as I do in other games. Now the horseback and the riding and getting to places was decent, but the boat and it's just to me.
Speaking of the horses, and actually I'm going to use this to, if you're ready, to segment into gameplay.
Let's do it.
Real quick, why the? I swore enough in this video. Why the heck does the horse have a stamina meter?
Yep, get rid of it. I'm on with you. Get rid of it.
Like if you're not going to be consistent and at least give Eivor a stamina meter, why does the horse have one? Seriously, just like why? I get why the boat has durability. That makes sense. But and again, it makes sense why Eivor doesn't have a stamina meter, because who wants to, in this kind of game, who wants to get tired sprinting around and doing parkour and all that? This isn't Breath of the Wild. But why does the horse have a stamina meter? It doesn't make sense. But that aside, gameplay wise overall, this game plays much more like classic Assassin's Creed as a whole, but the combat, unlike Odyssey and heck unlike Origins, is much more personal, or at least that's how I describe it. Like in Odyssey, I can't remember if I described it to you this way, Dion, or if I described it to my roommate this way, but the gameplay in Odyssey is, if I had to give it a weird comparison, it's not exactly like this, but I'm just saying for apples and oranges, or apples and oranges sake. Odyssey is to Bloodborne what screw it. Odyssey has the same speed and vibes that I get from Bloodborne when I play Bloodborne, while this game, I almost said Viking, Valhalla, is more like Dark Souls in terms of the pacing of combat. Odyssey is very much like, at least in that game, you could play it speedy as all get out in combat. I was jumping between targets, one after the other, throw my spear over there, chain it. That game is like nothing but chains in a way. You cleared everyone so quickly. You felt like a badass. In this game, it's much more personal in the sense that most of your kills, or at least most of my kills, maybe it's just the way I played, were the result of me either stomping on them or charging into them and beating their faces in. And it's like, it promotes more of a one-on-one kind of system, something similar to like how it was in Origins in my opinion, but not as clunky. It's just, but for me, I liked the more speedy nature of Odyssey, while this game promotes more of a, I'm gonna say, survivalist style of personal combat, because you have rations that you have to eat to heal and this and the other. And when you're fighting, you have a stamina meter. Again, why? But whatever. You have a stamina meter that you have to manage. You have quick attacks that bring it up, and you can quick attack forever. And you have heavy attacks that use that up. But dodging also takes stamina. And I'm like, I'm happy you guys are innovating on the combat system. But do you really do we need? I guess essentially, do we need like hindrances like this when you already kind of had that difficulty in Odyssey? Like, I know I said you could just bounce from target to target in Odyssey, but that doesn't mean that game didn't have moments where it kicked my butt. This one just felt like there were a lot of artificial things that made me have to take a slower pace. Actually, no. You know what? I could probably say that one reason I've done it was to promote stealth, despite the fact that you're a Viking. But even then, when it came to like the massive raids or the attacks on the fortresses and the standard, you're charging in there and whatnot. So I don't know, the combat for me, the combat portion of this game is a very mixed bag. When it's good, and other times the flow just gets broken up so easily. Like I'm trying to attack someone with my axe and I can't break through their shield. And then I'm just thinking back every time I hit a shield, I'm like, man, and honestly, I could just stab it and yeet that thing and then just kill that person. In this game, I came and like axe the shield and rip it from them. I have to like sidestep behind them and attack them, which again is great if you're one-on-one, but when you're in a group full of those dudes with the pole arms, it's annoying.
Yeah, and to give my thoughts on the combat, you went really deep into it.
Yeah, I was trying not to, but it happened.
The combat I thought it's good, not great. It's better than the crap that was Origins, in my opinion. Now, people disagree with me that Origins crap combat, but it was bad, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah.
Valhalla was good. Odyssey, pretty great. I don't know why we went backwards, but we did. And they were going for a different, they're trying to fit the Viking style, right?
It's much more gritty.
Much more gritty, much more ruthless. That's what they were going for, and they did get that, even because that's what they're going for, a slower, more intentional battle system, is what I call it. That's kind of what Dark Souls, right, is slower. It's not that slow. I think that's not doing that justice, but
that's why I just drew the comparison there, because it was just easier, because there is a clear difference between Dark Souls combat and Bloodborne combat.
Right. No, I get that. I'm just saying that the game wasn't Dark Souls slow, but it's slower than the other Assassin's Creed, and it does not make it more fun. It definitely is more. Like, if they would have kept the original Assassin's Creed Odyssey combat, it would have worked with the raid system much better, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. You might have been a little OP, but then they would have just had to design enemies that could counter.
They would have designed it differently, so it would have been fine. Now, let's talk a little bit about the RPG. You said old school RPG elements. You just mentioned that briefly. I think we should go a little more deeper into this, because the system completely changed from Origins and Odyssey, which they changed between each other, and now this one's completely different again. I will say the way you acquire skills and gear in this game, 100% all for it. I'm all in. I think they did a phenomenal job making you go on this. It's like a quest trying to get the gear, which is awesome. The little gold things that you look for, and then for the skills is the same. You got to find them in the map. You find the skill and you can equip them, and then they each have an upgrade, and those upgrades were meaningful. Like, they changed the skill meaningfully. Like, I remember the one where my favorite skill, where you throw I don't even know what you throw, but it looks like like a sling, or
I know what you're talking about. It's the harpoon thing. Yeah,
and you pull them back towards you, and you flip. Well, the original skill, you just pull them back towards you. You can just do normal attacks. The super skill, you pull them back and you do like a slow motion slice his neck off kind of thing, and the level of that skill completely changes when you get skill. So I thought that aspect was cool. And then when you talk about leveling up, they changed it. You get levels really quick. Like, the power level is literally 1 point. You get it very, very quick. It just keeps that dopamine flowing. You know what I mean? It just keeps hitting you.
You level up. You level a lot. You need to level.
A lot. Ding, 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 ding. And it doesn't even look like, when you see like the power levels of places, you're like, crap, I'm gonna get to 160. Well, let me tell you, 160 is not that far. That's so. I mean, it just. I did like that change. I did like that constant rewarding. Now, every level doesn't feel as impactful because the way the board works, and it's very easy to get all the skills you want. And they do have some nice skills there. But I did like that, you're kind of picking, I want to go towards the skill, I want to go to the skill. You can respec any time. I like how they did that. Where in Odyssey, you couldn't do that. So that was an improvement to me. I really like how they did those parts.
You can respec an Odyssey, not the same way in this game, but you can respec.
But not any time, though. Not like this, where it's just open. Like, you just respec, right? You have to have an item, or you have to pay. I think you just have to pay gold in Odyssey. There's nothing. Like, you literally just, I want to reset. Done.
This game also separates abilities from skills. I think that's what Dion was also getting at. Your abilities are the actual techniques you use in the hotbar, or whatever you want to put them. I say hotbar, but you know what I mean. While skills are more like augmentations of things you can already do. So, like, for example, early on, you can't if you dodge or perfectly time your dodge, that doesn't mean anything. It just means you dodged at the right time. But if you get enough skill points to where those little boosts of you get plus 1.3 damage, you get plus 1.3 stamina, you get plus 1.3. Hey, look, now you slow down time. Yeah, when you do a perfect dodge.
Those skills were great. The skills were great. They were very impactful. The little 1.3, no, but they mattered.
Yeah, I know. I'm just picking on it just for fun's sake, but yeah, that's how they separate that here. I will say, along the things that they changed, one of the things I don't like, because I agree with everything you said, but one of the things I don't like is the fact that they got rid of the ability to like scrap things you have. Like the gear you get is the gear you get unless you. No, I tried to sell it. You can't.
You can't do any selling or scrapping.
You can like I wanted to scrap things for materials, but they're like, nope. I'm like, why would you get rid of that?
But you can get materials so easily that there's no point in scrapping it for materials.
Yeah, but it would just been a nice plus. But whatever. That's the trade-off, I guess. But one of the things that happened recently that you probably didn't experience that happened because they released the patch while I was doing it. I wanted to change Eivor's appearance, even though I got really used to it. I wanted to change it for a while. In an Odyssey, you could change it, at least at the time that I played it, right then and there. I don't know if they added that later or not. I don't remember. But I know in this game, it wasn't there when I started playing the game. Then a patch said, okay, now you can change your appearance. I'm like, where was this? Why would you add that later?
But they might have added it later. Excuse me, might have added it later in Odyssey too. We don't know because we didn't play till later.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying anyway. Though either way, that's backwards to me. Actually, it's more backwards because if you added it later to Odyssey when you know you should have, then it should have been one of the first things. Not first things. It's not a major priority, but it should have been one of the things that you probably wanted to want to release closer to launch. Which, in retrospect, Valhalla came out in November. This patch dropped in March. It's not that far, but it's far enough for a game of its length. But whatever. That aside, gameplay overall, some of the at least on the action on the combat side of things, it's, if I'm rounding that part out, it's okay as a whole. There are parts where it's like really great, and parts where I'm like, okay, not there, but that's only one half of it. In this note that I put, I also mentioned that old school Assassin's Creed is back. And by that I mean you have moments where you could also approach things from the assassin perspective, stuff that you couldn't do in Odyssey, if you want to jump from there, Dion.
Yeah, so they bring back walking with groups of people and stealthing around, sitting on chairs, blending in with the crowd, putting your hood up is a big piece. The hood is back, baby. I see that note in there. Your gameplay notes. So they do things like that, and that's good. They bring those stuff back, and they encourage it. They put places where it's obvious to use sneaking. It's not required, but it's obvious, and it's so easy not to use it, but they push you to use it more. I still think they need to push a little harder, but I understand why they don't, and I think they do a good job of bringing that stuff back. And my thought on it, they did great adding the stuff back into the game. And yes, they do need to push it further, as they need to make the game. I guess it's Assassin's Creed, and the whole idea was you are stealth. It used to be all stealth, very low combat. Now we're like finally at a 45-55 combat, 55-45 stealth, or you can even say 60-40 high on the combat on the stealth. That's where we are now, and that's okay. I think they should swap that. I think we should go 60 assassin, to really push that assassins. That would give them something that is unique. But I do enjoy what they've done with this, and I'm going to give that a good. I'm going to give that the combat. I think the combat is once again a good, and I think those RPG elements as far as getting skills and your level up, I think that's great. So that's where I'm at on those pieces. I'm happy naval combat is gone. So I'm segueing into that. I'm happy naval combat is out. I always am not a big fan. You are a big fan, but it sucks in my opinion. And raids, I thought raids were better at first. And they're not. The ending is they're not. They were a good start, and I think the DLC that's coming might change that. But the vanilla raid experience it's cool in the beginning, but it gets old quick. It's almost like, what do they do in Odyssey? Those big battles.
Yeah.
It's almost like
Conquest.
that. It literally is fun in like for a little bit, and then it gets stale. And that's exactly what this was. It's like a bait and switch of mechanic, but they literally could just. It's still better, I think, than the Odyssey one, but it's not. We're not there yet.
I can agree. One of the reasons I could definitely see why it would be better is because in this case, you're doing what Vikings do. You're raiding. So you're raiding villages. You're raiding churches. You're raiding X, Y, and Z. You're taking. Supplies from these different places and killing any guard that wants to get in your way, really. And you take that back to your camp because you level your camp up. So once your camp gets leveled up to a certain point, or different points, there are 6 levels, I believe, so that your camp can level up to. Every time you level up to that portion, I think everyone gets like a upgrade or either an upgrade to their stock or an upgrade to how many quests they have available to give and whatnot. And that's all well and good, but again, like Dion said, raids are fun for like a time, and then eventually they're not required. Okay, there are a few that are required in the main story, but otherwise they're not like the required content. But when you have to do them because you want to like upgrade your camp, it's gonna you'll have to do those. Those are the best way to do it, and it can get a little stale. There aren't a lot of them, but it can get a little stale. Now, before we hop into our closing thoughts, I'm first going to also point out that one of my major criticisms of this game, again, is that there's too many characters. That's my criticism of every Assassin's Creed, but at that point, that's just a fault of how it is. You have a lot of characters you meet, and a lot of them you're probably not going to care about, and whatnot outside of some of the main cast. This game just has a lot of them. But one of my main... I was thinking to myself while I was playing the game, like, it'd be really cool if this game had a party system. And the reason I say that is because in any RPG that I've played that has a party system, it doesn't matter if a character is majorly contributes to the story or not. I still get to know them if the game is good enough at it. I still get to know them during combat, so they're always there in the forefront of my mind. So that, like I mentioned earlier with Brothier and Brodier, I can't remember which one got killed. I didn't care, but if they were in my party in this game and whatnot, and I got to like. Got to like fight alongside them, got to hear some of their ambient dialogue. Maybe they're cheering each other on and whatnot in the middle of combat. Like, I bet I could kill more than you, brother. Yeah, da 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 da. And then suddenly I lose them. I probably would have felt more. With that twist with Ivar, it was great. It was fantastic, and I don't even know how much this would top that. But if there was an actual party system where I could take Chilbert, Uba, and Ivar out there, even non-canonically, and just do some of the raids and stuff with them and whatnot, just to see how they would like react or talk those things through and like really make it feel fleshed out in that sense, then it would have been really cool, to do so I could feel more connected to those characters. Without it, those characters kind of just disappear from the story. That's the only reason I would say that I would have liked that kind of system for this game. I have no idea how it would have worked. I have no idea what kind of game they would mimic. The one that comes to mind immediately is Final Fantasy 15, but there are better examples out there, although 15 does a great job of,
That's the one thing the game does right?
Yeah.
What else do you want to say?
It's one of the main things that the Final Fantasy 15 gets right. You feel connected to Gladio, Prompto, and Ignis. So I feel like that kind of thing, that game was a little different because it was like a road trip kind of thing. But even then, something similar to that for this game where, okay, I have this list of characters I can pick from. I want Chilbert to come with me. I want this person to come with me. And if they're a role like a king or whatever, I understand why they couldn't be in the party. But otherwise, just having those other characters like join you, like Dragon Age. That's an example. You do that. You get that a lot in Dragon Age. Where you finish a certain chapter or whatnot, and then someone joins your party, and then they're just with you from then on. Maybe not canonically, but it's still nice to have them because they're at the forefront now. But that's just what I think would have been really cool to implement. It doesn't. I just feel like it would have added more, but not having it doesn't take anything away. It just would have helped.
Yeah, I agree. I think having something where you could have stayed connected with characters would have worked, or they could have made the game shorter, which
yes.
I think kind of takes me to my closing thoughts. I'm gonna let's put it, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Origins. I still like Valhalla more than Origins. That's just a personal opinion. I was not impressed with Origins, and I loved Odyssey more than both of them, even though there's no big Assassin's Creed elements, which sucks because I really like that game and I wish they put more Assassin's Creed stuff in there like they did in Valhalla. Like they made so many good steps forward in Valhalla, but they made some steps back, and they made unfortunately big steps back in some cases. What I will say is that I think Assassin's Creed Valhalla, using its average, I say it's a good game, and it is definitely worth the cost of admission. I think there's just a few things that hold it back, and I kind of already hinted at this, but the length. Either make those stories that are out there, like the Halloween story, which is awesome, either make that optional, or cut some of the stuff you don't need. Like the game was way too long, and that kind of and that's the part that really ended up being fragmented. Instead of having this whole party system, I mean, if you just cut out the crap, it would have been fine. Like the game would have been 50, not 50 hours, well 50 hours for you, but let's say 40 hours main story or 30 hours main story, and with extra 60, I still would have paid $60 and would have been happy with my purchase.
Yes.
And I think Assassin's Creed really gets stuck in the fact they have to push these big, huge, expansive worlds, and that's what people have complained about. They complain about it with Odyssey, they complain about it with Origins, and they complain about it continuously. I just don't get it why they keep pushing that, and I would like to see them make it shorter. But all in all, I think it has decent gameplay. I think it has a great leveling up system. They did great improvements on armor. They did great improvements to stealth. If you like that stuff, if you are an Assassin's Creed fan, I do believe the game's worth playing, and I'm a big fan of it. Just be prepared to play it for a long time. So set a long time aside, and then playing to kind of lose focus on it for a little bit, and then come back. Maybe take a break and play another game. I did. I played a lot earlier than Daryl, so I played it, and then Cyberpunk came out. I took a break with Cyberpunk for 40 hours, and I came back, and it was a lot easier on me, that experience. But I still got bored at the end. So I mean that really wraps it up the best I can.
Okay. And here's the thing. I definitely agree with everything you said, and I will say that yes, now most of everything I said I am being honest about, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. But I will say there is a sliver of a bias in there because I essentially had to tunnel the game, and I had to force myself to take a break because I'll say it this way because this might be a good way to kind of point this out. Since you had a break, it was able to, or had a longer break between finishing or starting and finishing Valhalla. I intentionally didn't, with the exception of like 2 days when I decided to do something else. But for the most part, I tunneled the game, and I would not recommend that. Don't take a break, play a different game or something, and whatnot. Do that.
Can I just say that? No, I know you're going to get your closing thoughts, but literally, so you guys understand how this experience was. Daryl was like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know how I feel. I waited, he's about 30 hours in, about 25, 30, and he's like, oh, this is good. They're doing like this is a really good story, really cool. And then it dropped. Again, that's how this whole experience was. That's how he explained it to me as he plays through this game. It was literally like a big bell curve. Anyway, continue.
No, it really was. Like I'm not gonna put my text messages on the screen, but I guarantee you that I put a wall of three paragraphs, which is average for me. It's how I normally text people. But this was me full on ranting because I'm like, what is this game doing? You have a good thing here. Why are you overdoing it? I think I literally told you that this game has roughly 14 to 16 arcs. 2 of those arcs are optional. Should have been more than that, like you said. And in my opinion, you could have gotten away with 5 or 6 arcs, like you said, and left everything else as optional. And here's the thing: if we're bolstering hey, we need to conquer England, why not? Maybe instead of having to conquer all of England required, maybe you only need to conquer 5 territories, and then it's just recommended that you conquer more to bolster your power. Maybe.
Or you just cut half of it. That's also a thing of it. It didn't need to be that big.
Yeah, it didn't. But I'm just saying if they wanted to remain big, then you could have just done it that way. But either way around, I believe the game should have been over within. Maybe I'm just shorter on patience when it comes to games that are like this repetitive. And again, take it with a grain of salt because the last game I played before this was Ghost of Tsushima, and the one before that was Odyssey, and the one before that was Cyberpunk. But then the one before that was Origins. I'm just burnt out. I'm gonna be blunt about you. I'm burnt out on this style of open world game. Ghost of Tsushima was nice for a different reason. If you haven't seen that video, watch it. We have 2 videos on it. That's how much we liked it. But still, 3 if you count the first impressions. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Put it up there. Yeah.
I'm gonna get you to edit one of these videos. Anyway, I just know that grain of salt. I'm just burnt out in that sense, but even then, I try not to let that get in the way of my enjoyment. But this game really just accentuated the things that I get tired of in open world games. I compared it to, and I'm going to be wrapping up soon with this. I compared it to, if you haven't played it, whatever, fine. You don't have to if you don't want to. If you haven't played it, The Last of Us Part 2 goes on for 24 hours. But the gameplay style of The Last of Us Part 2 complements a much shorter time, or time of completion. The first Last of Us was like a roughly 12 to 14 hours. That's all that 2 had to be. If the second one really wanted to be longer, then fine. Do what you did with Uncharted 4, Naughty Dog, and bump it up a couple more hours. Max 20 if you have to. What did it do instead? It took that gameplay loop and kept going for longer than it had to. It's 24 hours. And even then, when you thought the game should have been over, it went on for an extra hour for a weird epilogue thing. And I'm like, you didn't need that. It had a natural ending. Why'd you do that? This game, many times, almost feels like it should have a natural ending somewhere. But there's never a good spot because there's always more to conquer in England. So I'm just like, again, long story short, could have been shorter. And if it was shorter, most of those things that really grinded my gears, really mashed my potatoes, really fried my chicken, it would have been. Maybe I'm just hungry for soul food. I don't know. but maybe the things that bother me about this game wouldn't be as accentuated if the game was shorter. That's all I gotta say. I say the game is average, but it's only average when I look at it in the sense of just how little to the gameplay there is, but how much they try and stretch that. I didn't like that. And if it was shorter, it wouldn't have felt that stretched. That's just how I feel.
I think that's fair. I think that's definitely fair. So I know it's your turn to close out, but I'm going to close it out since you kind of gave your last closing thoughts here. So, alrighty, guys. I think that's all we got for now. We gave all of our opinions on the game, vastly long, but I think they're good opinions, good to listen to. Thank you all for stopping through and listening here at DuoQueue. If you think we might have glossed over something big, or you might need to expand on something more, which I highly doubt it, feel free to say so in the comments, because it's long enough. Oh, if you want to throw your own opinion in the hat, feel free to at the bottom before. Please like, favorite, share. But until then, next time we'll be waiting for a party or searching for a lobby. Feel free to tune in again while you wait. See ya!
Later, and make sure you take breaks.
Upp skrummer en svärd